Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh. Here are our top stories for tonight. The US says China's military activity near Taiwan is raising tensions unnecessarily. And Trump says US will intervene if Iran starts killing peaceful protesters. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. The United States has urged Beijing to end intimidating military moves around Taiwan, warning they create unnecessary tensions in the region. Earlier this week, China fired missiles and deployed fighter jets and naval vessels in drills it described as simulating a blockade of Taiwanese ports. Taiwanese military officials said some rockets landed closer to the main island than ever before.
Washington has urged Beijing to end military pressure on Taiwan and engage in meaningful dialogue. The US also reaffirmed its commitment to peace across the Taiwan Strait and opposed any attempt to change the status quo by force. China's show of military force came shortly after the US approved an $11 billion arms package for Taiwan, one of the largest in recent years. But President Donald Trump said earlier this week that he did not believe China had plans to launch an invasion of Taiwan in the near future.
President Donald Trump says the United States will intervene if Iran uses lethal force against peaceful protesters. His comments come as demonstrations turned deadly on Thursday as anger over rising prices and a collapsing currency sparked clashes across multiple provinces. In a social media post, Trump said the US would come to the aid of peaceful demonstrators and added the country is locked and loaded and ready to go if they are attacked. Local media reported that 3 protesters were killed and at least 17 others injured during a clash at a police station in Lorestan province in western Iran. Protesters reportedly entered the building, fought with officers, and set fire to police vehicles. The protests are the largest in 3 years, sparked by frustration over inflation and the government's handling of the economy. Iran's economy has been under pressure from years of Western sanctions and regional conflicts. Last year, the rial lost around half its value against the dollar, and inflation hit more than 42% in December. That's our top news. More coming up after this break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back. Russia says it has handed material to the United States that it claims shows Ukraine tried to target a residence belonging to President Vladimir Putin earlier this week. Russian officials say the handover happened in Moscow on Thursday and that the material was recovered from a Ukrainian drone that was shot down.
Moscow first made the allegation on Monday, accusing Ukraine of using long-range attack drones to try to strike Putin's presidential residence in the Novgorod region. Russian authorities claimed as many as 91 drones were involved and warned the incident could affect Russia's negotiating position in talks with Washington on the ceasefire with Ukraine. Russia's military intelligence chief, Admiral Igor Kozyukov, said specialists analyzed data from the drone and concluded the intended target was the presidential residence complex. Ukraine, along with several Western governments, has rejected Russia's account and questioned the credibility of the claim.
Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine are trading accusations of attacks on civilians on New Year's Day as fighting continues across several regions. Moscow says a Ukrainian drone strike hit a hotel and cafe in Russian-occupied southern Ukraine, killing at least 24 people, including a child. Kyiv, meanwhile, accuses Russia of carrying out a major assault on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia deliberately escalated the conflict on New Year's Day, launching more than 200 attack drones overnight. He said the strikes hit energy facilities across 7 Ukrainian regions, putting further strain on the country's power grid. The competing claims come as negotiations continue under the oversight of US President Donald Trump, aimed at ending a war now approaching its fourth year. Ukraine's military says it only targets military and energy facilities and did not directly address reports of a strike on the hotel. Fighting broke out in Yemen's Hadramaut province, which borders Saudi Arabia, between forces loyal to the Saudi-backed governor and the separatist Southern Transitional Council. The STC accused Saudi Arabia of carrying out airstrikes near the border, saying 7 people were killed and more than 20 wounded. However, Hadramaut's governor, Salim al-Kanbashi, said the operation was aimed at peacefully and systematically reclaiming military bases from the STC in the southern province. The STC had seized large areas from Yemen's internationally recognized government last month, a move Saudi Arabia views as a threat. UAE last week said it would withdraw its remaining forces from Yemen after Saudi Arabia backed a call from the Yemen Presidential Council for them to leave within 24 hours. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says he is open to talks with the United States amid intensifying pressure from Washington. Speaking to state television, Maduro said he was ready for dialogue with the US on energy and drug trafficking.
His comments come after weeks of escalating actions by the Trump administration, including strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats and the seizure of Venezuelan oil tankers. Earlier this week, President Donald Trump confirmed the U.S. carried out a drone strike on a docking facility inside Venezuela, marking the first known land operation on Venezuelan soil. However, Maduro declined to confirm or deny reports linked to the strikes. U.S. officials say more than 30 vessels have been targeted since September as part of a counter-narcotics campaign, with over 110 people killed so far. Maduro says the U.S. is using its war on drugs as a pretext for regime change and control of Venezuela's oil reserves.
Russia has formally asked the United States to halt its pursuit of an oil tanker heading towards Venezuela. The New York Times reported that Moscow sent a diplomatic note to the U.S. State Department and the White House's Homeland Security Council, claiming the vessel is now sailing under a Russian flag.
U.S. forces have been chasing the tanker, identified as Bella 1, for nearly 2 weeks after it sailed from Iran and was headed to Venezuela to load oil. Washington says the tanker was not flying a valid national flag at the time, rendering it stateless under international law and subject to seizure. Russia soon registered the vessel under a new name, Marinera, but the US says the flag change came too late to grant legal protection. The standoff comes as the Trump administration ramps up pressure on Venezuela, with Washington this week sanctioning 4 companies and several tankers linked to its oil sector.
South Korea President Lee Jae-myung is scheduled to travel to Beijing on Monday to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The visit comes at the invite of Xi, signaling Beijing's intent to strengthen ties with Seoul amid heightened regional tensions.
According to South Korea's National Security Advisor, the leaders are expected to discuss cooperation in areas including supply chain investment, tourism, and transnational crime. Lee is also expected to urge China to play what he describes as a constructive role in addressing issues on the Korean peninsula. The Lee administration has previously stressed its goal of restoring relations with China, South Korea's largest trading partner. Lee's latest visit will mark the second meeting between Xi and Lee in just 2 months and comes ahead of an upcoming meeting between the leaders of South Korea and Japan. He has said he will not take sides in disputes between China and Japan, a stance he maintains as tensions around the Taiwan Strait rise following Beijing's recent large-scale military drills near Taiwan.
The United States has sharply reduced proposed import duties on several Italian pasta producers. Officials say the move comes after companies address concerns raised over alleged anti-dumping practices.
Back in October, Washington had proposed extra duties of up to 92% on 13 Italian pasta makers, on top of the standard 15% tariff. U.S. authorities accused two producers, La Molisana and Garofalo, of selling pasta in the U.S. market at unfairly low prices. After the review, La Molisana's tariff was cut to just over 2%, while Garofalo's came down to nearly 14%. The remaining producers were assigned a rate of about 9%. Italy's foreign ministry said the changes reflected recognition of the company's cooperation. The proposed tariffs had been politically sensitive for Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who had hoped close ties with President Donald Trump would shield Italian exporters from punitive measures. Last year, Italy exported over 4 billion euros worth of pasta, with nearly $800 million going to the U.S. market.
The US dollar started the year on a weaker note, weighed down by expectations of further interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. It has fallen against most major currencies over the past year, as a narrowing interest rate gap allows other currencies to post strong gains in 2025. The euro held around $1.175 in early Asian trading, after jumping 13.5% last year, while the sterling was trading near $1.3474, having climbed 7.7% in 2025. Overall, the dollar posted its biggest annual drop in 8 years in 2025, weighed down by interest rate cuts, trade uncertainty, and concerns over the independence of the Federal Reserve. Much of the focus at the start of the year will be on who U.S. President Donald Trump picks to be the next Fed chair, as the term of current head Jerome Powell ends in May. Investors expect a more dovish choice that could cut rates after Trump repeatedly criticized the Fed for not easing faster. Kim Joo-ae, the daughter of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and widely seen as a potential successor, made her first public visit at the State Mausoleum to pay respects to former leaders. Analysts see her visit as a calculated move ahead of the upcoming ruling party Congress, where her succession might be finalized.
Photographs released by state media on Friday showed the family paying respects to Joo-ae's grandfather and great-grandfather, Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea. Joo-ae has made increasingly prominent appearances in state media over the past 3 years, fueling speculation that she could emerge as the country's fourth-generation leader. While North Korea has never confirmed her age, she is believed to have been born in the early 2010s, putting her in her early teens. Joo-ae was first publicly introduced in 2022 when she accompanied her father to the launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile. She also took part in this year's New Year celebrations and made her first public overseas visit last September, traveling to Beijing with her father.
China's BYD is set to overtake Tesla as the world's top seller of electric vehicles, marking a major shift in the global EV market. The Shenzhen-based automaker says sales of its fully electric cars jumped nearly 28% last year.
In total, BYD sold more than 2.25 million electric vehicles in 2025. Tesla has not yet released full-year numbers, but estimates earlier this week show sales fell 8% to around 1.64 million units. Tesla faced a tough year with slower growth and rising competition, and sales slipped in early 2025 amid backlash over CEO Elon Musk's role in the Trump administration. BYD has emerged as a global EV powerhouse, expanding into Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Europe, while undercutting rivals on price. Even as it grows quickly, BYD faces challenges at home, including rising competition from other Chinese EV makers and Beijing scaling back some incentives for electric vehicle purchases.
That concludes AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.